Welcome in to the basketball podcast of Mid-America. I am Seth Campbell, joined as always by Scottie, Bordelon, and we have got a stacked show for you today, and we are ready to get into it. The Hogs are rolling 7 straight SEC wins. Yeah, that Oklahoma State game hanging in the balance, so you could be 8 straight. And they're on a roll. They came out, unlike past Hog teams that have gotten ranked and then just completely fallen apart, this team came out and played with a little bit of fire. So we got to get into that a little bit.
They played well with fire, and then they actually played with, like, almost real fire, like, in the second half, but they closed the game out well. So props to them for that.
Yeah, they for sure did. It's going to be something for them to look forward to. See how they handle this as February is winding down and March is almost upon us. We'll talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about Devo Davis.
That boy's good.
He's emerging. And, yeah, at the detriment of some other guys. But, I mean, there's only 5 spots on the floor. You wouldn't put the 5 best out there if you're going to win games. And he very well, and is looking like he should be, is a part of that squad. So we'll talk a little bit more about him.
We should go back a couple of podcasts and see who said he was going to be the most improved player the rest of the season.
I bet it was Bob Holt.
You think Bob said that?
Yeah, not, the guy that's never been on our podcast before. Or me. Maybe it was me. Was it me, Scottie?
I think I said it.
Oh, you said it. Oh, okay. Well, I guess
maybe a little not so humble brag. But
I guess we have some audio of that, so we may have to go back and look at it. But all that to say, lots of stuff going on. We'll dig into it. Big week upcoming. Hogs second in SEC standings, and so we'll look at all of that. Hopefully they can play a game against Texas A&M this weekend. Before we get to any of that, though, I just want to shout out, this is a little off topic, but the true heroes of this week and really all of Arkansas. We've gotten a new appreciation for heroes in this past year with people that obviously don't wear capes, but have put themselves on the front lines, like people that are dealing with the coronavirus, our nurses and our first responders and all that stuff. Well, the heroes, for me, especially for me, but for other Arkansans and maybe those of people in Texas that are dealing with just some problems that have been caused by this true cold spell. He may have had a plumber's crack, and he may have inspired a Super Mario Brothers game. But the plumbers out there, let me just warn you, drip your faucets, but like all the time, because we just did ours at night, and then we woke up at night. Actually, we weren't working. We didn't wake up. We were going to bed, and we had water spewing out of our wall.
Gross.
Yeah, we had a pipe bust. So, true heroes that showed up 24 hours later at 11 p.m. at night to fix our water so that we are no longer living in the 1800s, but instead have running water. Shout out to those guys. I gave them a piece of king cake because they deserved it.
That was nice of you.
They deserved it.
You had to make a late call to your house too, right?
Yes.
It was around midnight?
He got there at 11 p.m.
Goodness.
And I asked him, how you doing? You just trying to make small talk.
Mm-hmm.
You busy? And he goes, I don't know what day it is.
Oh, wow.
I said, excuse me?
Yeah, I was about to ask if he had to come out at 11 because he was, like, so booked throughout the day. Is that why?
Yeah, he said, I started Monday. And he's like, I hadn't stopped. He goes, I think I slept for a little while one night.
I mean, I got a call from my mom. What is today, Thursday? I got a call from her on Wednesday. A pipe burst in the apartment above my mom's place. And it was, her apartment flooded. And so she's moved to a different apartment. And so, it seems like there's probably 3 or 4 people I know that have had this happen to them. And I've been fortunate to not have that happen. But
well, hopefully this weekend temperatures rise above freezing, but it'll be the great thaw out as Snowmageddon has come upon Arkansas. Northwest Arkansas didn't get hit near as bad as some places in central Arkansas.
Yeah, my dad lives in South Arkansas near Camden, and he sent me a picture yesterday. They got 13 inches.
That's wild.
My stepmom's out standing in her driveway, and it's like halfway up her shins. Like she's kind of short, but it's still it's halfway up her shins.
That's absolutely insane. So shout out to all of y'all. Maybe you're tuning into the podcast because you can't go anywhere because you're stranded at home because of the great white snow. I saw a meme. I think this came from Matt Jones, and then we'll get on to basketball. That the winter is coming meme from Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
But it said winter is coming all at once in 1 week.
Literally.
And it really did. So I've gotten a lot of practice driving in the snow.
I'm kind of over setting the thermostat to 65.
Yeah.
Like I've been working with like 2 pair of sweatpants on and then 2 pullovers, and then I've got like the gaiter that'll go over your face. I've had that around my neck all week.
We've been doing our part. We, like you said, we turned it down to 65, but it's still chilly. It's not as fun. Yes, but conserve that energy if you can, if you're able to. All right, let's dive in. Let's talk basketball, Scottie. Florida, a team that Arkansas is just historically not good against, and especially with Mike White there. They've never beaten Mike White in the regular season. Arkansas took care of business on Tuesday and looked the part of a top 25 team.
Yeah, they really did. And, I mean, I thought the first half, Arkansas's defense was absolutely locked in. I mean, Florida was shooting under 30%, I think, for a good chunk of the first half. And then Arkansas opens the second half with 5 straight points, and all of a sudden they're up like 45-30. And you're just thinking, man, this Arkansas team is like for real. Because Florida was coming off a COVID break, right? And they weren't going to be clicking on all cylinders when they came in, but like Mike White's a terrific coach, and
he really
Florida's got some really good players. Like I was, looking over some numbers before the Florida game. Like Colin Castleton was really good, Scottie Lewis was really good. Neither one of those guys started the other night, which should tell you that Florida's got some talent. Mm-hmm. Like they really do. And Noah Locke and Tyree Appleby are really good. But I mean, Eric Musselman's talked about this all the time. Arkansas made a couple of runs in the first half and then to open the second half. And then Florida made their run, but Arkansas made the last run. And so basketball is a game of runs, and Arkansas made its run, when it really mattered and closed the game out. What was it, on a 14-2 run? I think that's right.
I'll look it up.
And they really cashed in at the line. Like if you want to read about Arkansas's free throw shooting this year, which is, I think that's one of the more underrated parts of this team. Like I think free throw shooting really only gets recognized when it's poor.
Right. But
this is Arkansas's best free throw shooting team, I think, since Dusty Hannahs and Daryl Macon were on the same roster. I think that was the 2016-2017 season. And the right guys are getting to the line. And even guys like, we'll talk about a little bit more about Devo later, but something that I like about him lately, he's 8 of his last 8 at the free throw line the last 4 games or 5 games. And coming into this, like, I remember watching him step to the free throw line a couple times in an earlier SEC game, and his free throws barely drew the rim. And now he's just stepping up there as confident as can be. Justin Smith, going into the Missouri game, was a 50% free throw shooter in SEC play. He was 5 out of 10. And then against Missouri, he hit 6 out of 7. The 6 makes, I think, tied a career high for him in a single game. And so I think he's like 8 of his last 11. And Arkansas's clutch time free throw shooting has been really good. And you can read, about the drill that's got Arkansas, performing well at the line, in big time situations. You can read that story on wholehogsports.com. Bob wrote a great story about that. But there's a lot to like about this Arkansas team, and Devo's right in the middle of it. Justin Smith is playing out of his mind right now, and I mean, there's so many pieces that bring so many different things, and this team's really clicking at the right time. I mean, if you had closed out the Oklahoma State game a little bit better, gotten a defensive stop here or there, you'd be looking at a team that hadn't lost in a month.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, sorry for the awkward pause, but I mean, I was going for dramatic effect. Like they played really well over the last month.
I think that all of that is valid, Scottie. I think that Arkansas is a team that can be in the position that they are in and succeed. I don't think that this is something that is going to be a one-off or a fluke, but you do have to come out and you have to be prepared, and they showed that they can.
I think Arkansas proved that it wasn't a fluke by going to Kentucky and to Missouri in a week and winning a pair of close games. I think you're right. This isn't a one-off or a fluke like you said.
Arkansas finished on a 12-2 run.
12-2
over the last.
No, it was an impressive run.
So as I said, you get a lot of monkeys off your back with this team, and so you've been able to break a lot of streaks. And now, when you look forward, and even when you look at the SEC basketball standings, all of a sudden it just feels right to see Arkansas in that top 4. And I think I've kind of hit home. I don't think we've kind of hit home. I think I've kind of hit home all season long how important it is to be in that top 4 when the SEC tournament rolls around, which there's going to be an SEC tournament. I think that's pretty obvious to say now. The SEC is not going to be one of the conferences that back out. Especially
come hell or high water, Eric Musselman's going to be there.
Especially with it being cut off right in the middle of it last year. It really went in the middle. It was right at the beginning. But anyway, so I think that there's definitely going to be a tournament. But when you get that top 4, there's just such an advantage, and you can have teams that have already played, and you can pick up those quality wins without having to win 3-4 games in a weekend and get tired the weekend before March Madness. And then also, Scottie, I've kept up with the Razorbacks for a while. This is the first time I've legitimately been covering them, and they've been in the NCAA tournament. I mean, they were in tournament talk last year a little bit, but it was going to take a run through the SEC tournament to get them in. Mm-hmm. But all of this, this is why you cover basketball. This is why people watch basketball, is for this coming down the stretch. And Arkansas, not to be mentioned, like I feel like they have been the past few times they made the tournament, whereas like an 8, a 9, a team that you could win the first game, but you're not necessarily looking to go into that second weekend. Arkansas can very easily put them in a position, if they win winnable games towards the end of the season, to where they have a run at that second weekend. Now, it's not – the NCAA tournament is a lot based on matchups. Like, if you get a bad matchup, just ask Virginia playing UMBC. Of course, Virginia also didn't have a great game that day. But, it's based on matchups, so it matters who you play in the second round and all that stuff. But this team has potential and has the ability, more so than I've seen any team, even that Arkansas team that took North Carolina and should have made it to the Sweet 16 when they almost beat number 1 North Carolina in 2016. This team has that potential to make it to the second round, especially if they can play themselves into that 6 spot, that 5 spot in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I think Arkansas would prefer to stay off the 8-9 line. And
I don't know that many teams that like that.
I think they're going to have to, like I said, I think maybe last week or the week before, I think at this point they're going to have to, all they got to do to stay off that 8-9 is just not have multiple games that are just, who is this team? And right now, the identity of this team is pretty clear. They've got their team dad back, Justin Smith. Devo's playing really well. Jalen Tate's doing his thing. Connor Vanover's come back to life a little bit. Like he's giving you some perimeter shooting. Like I've got his catch and shoot numbers over the past 4 games. He's defending pretty well too. Moses Moody's defense has been just, oh my God, he's been phenomenal. It's been absolutely phenomenal. Going into the Florida game, opponents were shooting 11 of 50 against him as the nearest defender the previous 7 games. And then I think Florida hit 2 of 9 shots against him. So that's 13 of the last 59 when shooting with Moses Moody as the nearest defender. I think I know his length and his defense. Mike Schmitz at ESPN likes him a lot because of his length and his defense. But I think those areas, well, I guess the defensive part of his game can get overlooked a little bit just because he's got a propensity to score, and he's one of the highest scoring freshmen in the country. You know who this team is, and that's why you feel good about Arkansas going down the stretch. Like, your 2 toughest games are at home. And one of the other things I like about this team is during this SEC win streak, they have taken care of business, and they have beaten teams that they're supposed to beaten. And, like, you win at Vanderbilt, you kind of go into that weekend a little bit worried, because you're coming off such a high from that Auburn game. But you go in there and take care of business. You win by 20. And then you beat Ole Miss at home, beat Mississippi State at home, so you're taking care of business at home too. And then you have a really tough road week with Kentucky and Missouri. Like, you could have a couple of letdown games there because, Kentucky's a bad team, but they've still got talent on that roster. And plus, you're playing at Rupp, so you feel like you're playing 5-on-8 sometimes. You win there, you find a way to win, and then same thing at Missouri. Like, you come up with the defensive stops that you need. And Justin Smith, like I said earlier, he played his best game in an Arkansas uniform, Eric Musselman said. And then the next game, you take care of home floor again against a really good team. Like, Florida might be their best win this year, I would think, because Florida's when they're playing well, they're really solid. There's like I said, there's a lot to like, and you know who this team is going down the stretch.
All right, I need to make an open for this segment because I don't have one, and I think that over the next 2-3 weeks, I think it would be kind of fun. But we're gonna bring in, and Scottie doesn't know about this either, so I'm gonna put him on the spot. His eyes just got real big. What we're gonna call this segment is Scottieology. You've heard of bracketology. This is Scottieology.
Oh boy,
Arkansas's bracket expert in WholeHogSports.com. So, Scottie, in the basketball podcast of Mid-America, I'm going to give you 3 different scenarios, okay? And then I wanted you to see how this plays out for Arkansas at the end of the season, meaning what seed they get in the NCAA tournament, or if they make the NCAA tournament. I think it's kind of hard for Arkansas not to make the NCAA tournament now, but there is that possibility. I mean, that could happen. So, number 1, we'll go, you beat A&M, you beat South Carolina. You beat LSU, you lose to Alabama. Kind of how maybe the season probably will fall. The most likely, if we're playing the odds, the most likely. And let's say SEC tournament, you win a game, and you don't have a bad showing in the next game. Where are you falling on that seed line?
I think you're a 6 or a 7.
Okay.
Probably more of a 7.
Okay. So,
but
even though Arkansas by Lenardi right now is a 6, you think that they would fall to a 7?
I don't know. Like, how well do you play Alabama?
Okay. I don't know. It's at home. Arkansas doesn't normally lose except for to Missouri.
I might go back on that. They'd probably be if they win 3 out of their last 4,
and then win a game in the SEC tournament.
and then win a game in the tournament,
so
and then you lose in your second game.
Yeah, so something like that.
Yeah, I'd lean 6, but I wouldn't be surprised with 7.
Okay. Then we'll switch that. You lose a bad game, so you lose Bama. You beat LSU, but you lose a game against South Carolina or A&M. And then, same thing at the SEC tournament. You win a game, lose a game.
I would say you're on the fringe between a 7 and an 8.
Okay. Is there any way Arkansas doesn't make the NCAA tournament right now in your eyes?
Lose the rest of your games?
Okay.
I mean,
I think that's fair.
Including one in the tournament, in the SEC tournament.
I think you lose your last 5 games.
Because you're gonna I don't know what Arkansas would be in the SEC tournament if they lost their last 4 regular season games, but you're probably going to get matched up with a team that's, I don't know, kind of maybe middling in the league, or maybe closer to the bottom third, and so you lose that game. That's equal to losing to South Carolina or A&M, I think.
Okay. Now that we've gone low, let's go high. Let's put on our red-colored glasses, Scottie. Let's put them on, and let's say, what are we feeling Arkansas wins out? And, okay, maybe they don't win the SEC tournament. Arkansas doesn't seem to have the best luck.
So win their last 4 regular season games.
And then win a game or 2 in the SEC tournament.
So you win the rest of your regular season games. That puts you at 21-5.
That's pretty good.
You win a game in the tournament, 22-5. Lose a game, 22-6. I think you're on the 5 line.
Okay, I think that's the right spot.
There's a shot that could happen too.
Arkansas, I don't hate the matchup with Bama.
Arkansas is such a different team since they played Alabama a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Justin Smith is probably twice as healthy, if not more, than he was.
Yeah.
That when he first came back against Alabama, like he was essentially a non-factor in that game. His conditioning wasn't there. He's talked about his explosiveness is not back, and that's kind of one of the more frustrating things about the injury. But he's even gotten that back to a degree, and he's kind of the glue that holds this thing together. I think Arkansas is just so different with him.
I texted you this. Is he the MVP? And you said,
"Oh, there's no doubt in my mind."
Of the team, the MVP of the team. Obviously.
Yeah, no doubt. There's no doubt. I don't know who. Like, there are candidates. There are other candidates, but it's like Justin Smith is like up here, and then everybody else is kind of like a tier, maybe 2 below him. I think he's that important. He's that important. You saw what Arkansas was when he wasn't playing.
Yeah, that's valid.
I mean, think about the games that Arkansas lost without him. Did they win those games with him? I think they win the Missouri game. And I think if he's healthy against Tennessee, he matches up with Eve Pons. And then the LSU game's probably maybe a little bit closer. Like, I'm not saying that you go to LSU and win just because of Justin Smith, but, I mean, he gets everybody on the same page, gets them organized, and I think the offense flows so much better with him. And because he's a natural ball mover, and he's been scoring really well lately. He's been really efficient, and I don't think you can't overstate like the importance of him being back in terms of Arkansas's like team rebounding.
Yeah. Okay. The only argument I see, you have to have guys like Jalen Tate. You have to have guys like Devontae Davis, which another teaser. We'll get to him right after this conversation. But I mean, Moses Moody. I think that's the conversation that you have to have is who is Arkansas without Moses Moody, and who is Arkansas without Justin Smith. We've seen what Arkansas is like without Smith. We have to theoretically go into our minds and figure out what Arkansas is like without Moody. And I think that's the whole crux of the argument, I think, is that you don't necessarily know. How do defenses defend Arkansas? Can somebody else step up in the position? And you would like to think that I feel like there's a better replacement for Moody. Now, the ceiling's not going to be as high and the floor is going to be lower. But I feel like there's a better replacement in a fact of like finding a guy like a Desi Sills coming off the bench or a JD Note to fill a role. Nobody's going to be Moses Moody. There's a reason why he's going to be a lottery pick. But I think that's the only person that you could say what about. What do you think?
I think Jalen Tate deserves a little bit of credit too. Like Devontae Davis said this the other day. Like when Jalen Tate's rolling, this Arkansas team's rolling.
Yeah.
And when Jalen Tate is creative on the offensive end, and I've been tracking his potential assists since December 30th. Jalen Tate, I mean, he didn't have just a ton of assists against Florida, but I think he set up teammates for like 11 or 12 shots that could have led to an assist. And so his creativity as a passing point guard is big time. And the ball doesn't stick with him. And then he's also a guy, he's got, I don't know how to say this, he's got the cojones to take the big shot late in the game like he did against Florida. Arkansas had a 1-point lead, 2:15 left, and then he milks the shot clock down to 7 seconds, and then he gets into a scoring position, and then he gets to his spot and buries a big time shot.
He had the guts to take that shot.
Yeah, I didn't want to say balls, but he had the balls to take that shot.
Well, you just did.
And his mid-range jumper, like we've talked with Simon Gersberger about that, his long mid-range is much better than his short mid-range, and his best shot is when he drives and gets to the rim. He's been doing that really well lately. He was 3 of 3 on his mid-range jumpers against Florida, including the one to give Arkansas a 3-point lead with 2 minutes left, and then they never led by less than 3 again.
But in the conversation, of most valuable player on the Arkansas basketball team. Jalen Tate is valuable, and he has a role. But it's got to be between Moses Moody and Justin Smith, right?
Yeah, I'm going with Justin Smith. I just think he holds everything together. It's like Arkansas is 15-2 with him, and the one game that they had him and they lost, he was at like 25%.
Was that the second or the
That
first
was the
game?
Alabama game.
Yeah.
Yeah. So think
Alabama,
about that.
And then he played it because he didn't play against LSU.
Yeah, he didn't. Yeah. So their 3 losses when they didn't have him, all by double figures. I think he's a difference maker in that Tennessee game too. Like you were down, like you lost by 5, and
Tennessee's not very good.
You have a healthy Justin Smith, whose interior defense I think is very underrated too. Against a Tennessee team that can struggle offensively and likes to take a lot of interior jumpers, he could have altered some of those.
I agree. I think that, and I didn't mean to like throw a hot take in there while you were talking about the Tennessee game, saying that Tennessee's not very good. Tennessee,
they struggle to score. I get
Tennessee
what you're
is a team that will make the NCAA tournament. I
will not trust them.
I will not pick them really to win the first game, depending on the matchup. Like I said, NCAA tournament's all about matchups, but
they're eighth in conference only games in offensive efficiency. Like they have nights where they really struggle to score. And it's hard to trust a team that's like that.
You're exactly right. So I'm not trusting Tennessee anyway. But, yeah, it's hard. I tried to play devil's advocate to you, Scottie. I really did.
I totally get the case for Moses, too. Like, he's been steady, and he impacts so many areas of the game. Like, I just gave you his defense, like, opponents shooting against him. Like, what is 13 out of 59? Like, that – I don't know what the percentage is, but it's terrible. It's terrible. It's like, so his length is really valuable on the defensive end, and he's willing to sacrifice his body, take charges after he makes mistakes and stuff.
22%.
22%. That's what it was going into the Florida game. It didn't get any worse. You're playing some really good guards in this league.
Yeah. Yeah.
I get the case for both, and maybe it's my man crush on Justin Smith that's showing out right now.
I think that's the question that we should dive into more than anything here on the basketball podcast.
Why my man crush has shifted a little bit.
Yeah. So, yeah. Let's talk about that, Scottie. I think that is almost as important, if not more important, than anything that we've got going on here on the basketball podcast of Mid-America. Yeah, we got the stats that we can dive into here and all that stuff. But is there like some rocky roads ahead in the relationship between Scottie Bordelon and Desi Sills? Like, is there some side texting going on, or is Desi asking you for your passwords to your social media accounts over here? What's the shift in the man crush? I need an update on your relationship.
Do you blame me for admiring Justin Smith's game?
I don't blame you, but I mean, did you not? I guess you haven't said for better or for worse with Desi Sills.
So Justin is playing so well lately, and in that Oklahoma State game that Arkansas lost, I think he got his groove back in that game. I think that's when you saw a really healthy Justin Smith for the first time since he came back. He has one of the things that I really like about him lately is he has tied a career high he has set a career high in assists, and then 4 games later he matches it again, and then the 2 games in between that he has 2 games where he has 3 assists. So it's not just the scoring, it's not just the rebounding, it's not just the big time block that he made at the end of the Florida game or the 5 steals. Like, he's literally touching every part of the game, and his presence is just, I mean, it's undeniable that Arkansas is like possibly a second weekend type team with Justin Smith when he's playing well. And Eric Musselman said it after the Florida game. He's playing like a next level guy the last 2 games. He's been incredible. He's playing how the staff knew he was capable of when he got here.
I think that you're right. My man.
So I rest my case on that one.
So we're kind of falling off the Desi Sills a little bit, and we're not completely off of Desi Sills though, are we?
No,
The bandwagon.
It would be
crush.
awesome to see Desi come back and play with some more fire, I think. But right now, Devo is playing so well that like he's eating up Desi's minutes and he's eating up JD Note's minutes.
Yeah.
And right now, I wouldn't want to take Devo off the floor. And kind of like Justin Smith touches so many different aspects of the game. Devo does that at the guard spot. Like he is lethal in transition, and he can get by his defender almost at will. He becomes a little bit more efficient with that mid-range jumper. He is going to be unguardable. And then on the defensive end, like he's so long and he's so active, and I don't know if you know this or not, but he's really good at getting loose balls. He's invaluable too. Like at this point, Devo deserves a lot of credit for Arkansas's turnaround. Like his improvement and his development has kind of lifted Arkansas kind of out of that rut, and they have 3 or 4 guards right now that they really trust, and Eric Musselman's going to run with them.
That's one of the things I wanted to talk about. We teased it all throughout. Little bit deeper dive into Devo. He is phenomenal in the open court. I think that's why Musselman elected to let him go at the end of the Oklahoma State game without calling a timeout.
He's let him go the Kentucky game and the end of the Missouri game.
He's let him go multiple times. So I think that just his growth. I think that you're right, Scottie. That the fact of he is a difference maker for this Arkansas team, and you have to have a team come together in order to make it to the second weekend in the NCAA tournament. Arkansas hasn't seen that since 1996, 95.
I think 96. I think you're right. 96.
It was the night because it was the 94. Okay, yes.
The year after the back-to-back finals trips.
Yes. Sorry, since 1996, but all of these people have to combine together and get you to that tournament. But you have to have special people almost go above and beyond what you expected of them, and I think that's what Devontae Davis has done this year.
He's not needy. That's what on offense, he is so not needy. Like he's very low maintenance on offense. Like there are some guys that are like, I need to get this number of shots, or I might be off my game tonight. Devo's just like, I'm gonna get my buckets where I can. I'm
gonna get buckets.
And I
don't need no drawn up plays. I just go to the hoop.
He's best out of the flow, and that's something else. Like remember Eric Musselman said after the Alabama game that Arkansas had turned into a team that was better getting their offense in half court than out of the flow. Insert Devo Davis. He's flipped the script on that.
Yeah. And
that's one thing that he's so good at, because he can get by his initial defender and get to the rim. He can drive and draw special attention, and then he can dump off to Connor Vanover for a dunk, or he'll hit insert player here for a layup on a backdoor cut. Like he's a blur in transition. Like Arkansas scored on 5 of its 6 transition chances against Florida. Devo Davis was 4 of 4. I mean, he early in the game, he had a couple of back-to-back possessions where he scored in transition, one a dunk and one a layup, and then he had another transition score before the half, and then his final transition score put Arkansas up for good.
Yeah.
And you remember, he catches the ball near half court, and he's got 2 Florida defenders around him, and it was almost like he got to the rim with such ease, it was like they weren't there.
Yeah, he's definitely impressive. All right. You got anything else with him before we move on and just kind of
Yeah, so we just talked to Eric Musselman, he previewing the Texas A&M game, and I've been cataloging the shots that each Arkansas player has been taking, and Devo was 4 out of 4 in transition, like I said, and he accounted for 4 of Arkansas's 5 transition scores, and just we know Devo is long, and we know he's like lightning quick, but outside of that, what makes him effective in transition? And I think his length is a plus just because he's got longer arms than the average guard that's his size too. So that gives him a leg up when he's in transition. When maybe an opposing guard is trying to contest a layup. And similar thing with players who are a little bit bigger than him. Like he's got the quickness advantage on them. And he can kind of slither by them and get to the rim. But he's just Musselman said, he's got a great burst of speed. His change of direction is really good. He's crafty. That in and out dribble that he'll hit you with is pretty deadly too. There's just a lot to like about him. His one-on-one ability is really good right now, and it's only going to get better. And when he's in the half court, when he takes his defender off the bounce, he dribbles and gets to that left block. He throws up that left-handed runner, if he can get that shot down, he'll be all conference next year. That kid's special. He's special.
Special indeed. Well, before we wrap it up here on the Basketball Podcast of Mid-America, does it seem like to you that the Hogs just figured out how valuable the Connor Vanover lob is? I've seen that more frequently in the past few games. And it may be, honestly, because teams are defending him a little bit differently.
Who found him both times? Who assisted both times?
Davis?
Justin Smith.
Oh, yeah, you did tell me that. Yeah.
Point guard.
That was a brain fart on my part. He almost has as many assists as Moses Moody. Jalen Tate's going to be the leader, obviously, but I was looking up the stats. Moses has a few more assists, but not a lot.
Yeah, like in I would say in SEC play, I would be willing to bet that Justin Smith has more assists than Moses. And it's fine that Moses doesn't have just a ton of assists because when the ball touches his hands, you want a shot going up,
yeah,
which is fine. But Moses did have a great assist at Missouri. He hit Devo cutting baseline.
Basically, the only time this year that Moses Moody has ever been with the ball in his hand at the top of the key. Now, they've done it a few times, but in a crucial situation,
yeah, they don't run a middle pick and roll at all.
Musselman trusted him to do that, and he found Devontae Davis.
Yeah, and they put him in a middle pick and roll to start overtime too with Justin Smith. Justin Smith and one to start overtime, and then he hit Devo on that cut. So those are 2 big assists for Moses.
You got anything else?
Not just a score. I think we would be silly to not talk about Jalen Williams against Florida.
Yes. You have a fantastic stat about his defense.
So Jalen played 45 defensive possessions against Florida. Florida scored 0.62 points per possession in that span.
0.62 points.
0.11 or 1.1 is satisfactory for like Eric Musselman. Like if he looks after a game and Arkansas scored 1.12 points per possession, he's happy with it. Florida was literally that almost got cut in half when Jalen Williams was on the floor.
That's pretty good. I like the combination between him and Vanover, and you play Vanover some more in games that he's feeling it, or maybe the matchup is there, but I feel like they flow off of each other really well.
So check this out. Jalen Williams and Justin Smith shared the floor for a good while the other night against Florida. Over 28 possessions, Florida scored 0.57 points per possession. Those two on the interior were elite the other night.
Nice.
Absolutely elite. And I was looking, I do I track, how many shots each Arkansas defender gives up in a game. Justin Smith gave up 2 buckets on 9 shots, 2 buckets on 8 shots, and Jalen Williams gave up 1 on 6 shots. Colin Castleton was 0 for 3 against Jalen Williams.
Ridiculous.
Those two were phenomenal.
That's good stuff, man. I just love doing this podcast with you. You throw out so many good numbers.
It's a really fun time of the year, and it's even more fun, I think, and enjoyable for everybody when the team that you follow or the team that you cheer for as a fan is good. Like this is a really fun time of the year. If Arkansas takes care of business against Texas A&M, the Alabama game will be the biggest since Kentucky last year. But maybe
like the Kentucky last year, that game was big because Arkansas was playing well. But I don't know that the stakes were as high.
Yeah, because I think Arkansas would have been ranked if they had won that game, but they weren't ranked.
Yeah.
So I think Arkansas that was a national respect game for Arkansas last year, and they let it slip through their hands. They've got some national respect now, and they've got a chance to go get even more next week if they take care of business Saturday first.
This would have been a hot take. If Bud Walton Arena was full, no COVID restrictions, I would feel decently good. Everything else being the same, feel decently good about picking Arkansas in this game against Alabama.
Yeah.
There is no scientific fact behind any of that, but I
think a full Bud Walton can make 6 to 10 points of difference.
Yeah, I feel like that Bud Walton Arena, when it gets loud, it can get into the heads of some people, and some people don't know how to handle it. In big games, when big games happen, Arkansas fans show out. Be like you were saying, NCAA tournament, I think that this year I would have loved it, respected it, and cherished it just because it was taken away from us last year. But it is an extra added benefit.
So check this out. So with COVID, it's kind of frustrating because you can't have a full arena.
Right.
But the good thing is it's an 8:00 tip. That's going to give Arkansas fans who have tickets to the game a little bit more time to get there, and it's going to give students in the student section a little bit more time to pregame. If you know what I mean, they'll be rowdy. It'll be really fun.
It'll be really fun. Well, like I said earlier, I have a fun time getting to talk to you every single week, Scottie. If you have a fun time listening, you can definitely hit that subscribe button wherever you are listening and watching now. This is the first week that we've added a live element to this, and it has gone okay, I think is the best way to describe it. There's been some rough patches here and there, but you got to hang with us. I'm not very good at multitasking. My wife would definitely agree with that. So me multitasking, doing the podcast and trying to switch between angles is a little rough at times, but we're figuring it out. Hey, this is an upgrade. You get to see our rather bleak studio right now, but got a nice picture behind us of Arkansas-Auburn football game. I don't even know who that receiver is, but he dropped the ball.
No idea.
I don't know why we framed that, but anyway.
We need to get a poster with the podcast logo on it. That would be pretty dope just to put behind you.
Big old Brandon, man. Branding all the way. Well, like I said, if you like it, subscribe wherever you're listening, wherever you're watching. You can give us a 5-star rating. Leave us a comment. We will look at all of those. You can also check out more great Razorback content at wholehogsports.com. We'll push you back to there. Great stories. Women's basketball also playing and on a hot streak. I know that we always just kind of like throw them in at the end of these things, but
yeah. So
when it comes tournament time, we're going to talk a little bit about them too.
Yeah. So Arkansas was supposed to play Ole Miss Thursday. Yep. Arkansas announced today that game has been moved to Friday night at 6. The game's not going to be on TV, and it's not going to be streamed on SEC Network Plus either. So if you want to check that one out, you're probably going to have to, battle the weather a little bit, maybe get out, but. Hopefully it'll be a little bit warmer, like maybe close to freezing, and so it won't feel that bad getting out. The roads, when I was coming here from home, the roads were great.
Okay. I said that before you said that, not knowing what you were going to say.
No,
I hope he says
no, they were great. I legitimately, I called my wife and I said, hey, the roads are clear enough where you can speed again if you wanted to. I'm not, but they're clear. I had literally had no problems getting here.
Well, fantastic advice. The roads are clear enough that you can speed again. So.
And I'm coming from north of Fayetteville, so granted, I didn't take the interstate, but I would bet that the interstate is not that bad either.
I took the interstate last night even, and it was clear.
Solid, yeah. So if
if
you want to get to the women's game, there's probably a pretty good chance you could make it. They're playing well. I'm glad they're getting to play instead of taking more time off than Mike Neighbors wanted.
They're a good squad. Okay, I'm gonna leave you with this. I know we said that we're gonna leave, but I can't just not. Women's basketball is the thing that I've written about the most over the past few months. So I have like I have a passion inside of here. Season starts, Scottie, and I told you the women's team would knock off 2 top 5 teams, including 1 perennial power, UConn. The men's team would play a soft non-conference schedule, and that the women's team would be ranked, I think they're like 6th in the conference right now, maybe even as low as 8th, and that the men's team is ranked 2nd, and they could very well get the same seed in the NCAA tournament. Would you ever thunk that?
No, not at all.
Not
I figured Arkansas's women would play well enough because they've got enough girls on that team that can just hoop. Like,
oh man,
they can play themselves into a really good seed. But I wasn't certain what we were going to get with this like the men's team. You know, they had so many pieces that they just had to figure it out. But they're figuring it out at the right time. I think roles are clearly defined. Shot selection has improved so much. Like, it's almost like it changed not long after that shot quality interview we did. It probably we're absolutely not. No, but
oh dang, I was trying to.
But Arkansas shot quality, their shot selection has drastically improved, and that's one of the things that's led to this turnaround. Absolutely, and now Arkansas is in a position now where every game that they play, they can improve their seed line, which is, who would have thought we would have been there a month ago?
Especially when
we literally, after Arkansas lost at Alabama and LSU, we got on a podcast and we went game by game the rest of the season and tried to predict the SEC record. And I said Arkansas was going to go 8-10. Right now, Seth, they've got a real shot to finish 12-5 in the league, or 13-4.
Wow.
And that's without the Texas A&M game at home that they would have won.
They would have won. Going to Reed Arena, that's a different story. Arkansas doesn't play traditionally well there. It's kind of a weird arena. But playing Texas A&M at home, Arkansas would have won that game.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is tough.
If you want to mention Texas A&M for a brief second, like, I'll just leave you with this. Texas A&M's offense is last in the league. In SEC only games, they're last in the league in offensive efficiency. They're scoring 88 points per 100 possessions. If you put that on a national scale, that 88.0 offensive efficiency number, that would rank them 347th out of 357 teams, or 351st out of 357 teams.
I don't think that's good.
That's not good.
Not
so
good
Arkansas does what it's supposed to on Saturday. I mean, Arkansas's they've got their seed line, like an improved seed line in their hands, if they just, with 2 big games coming up at home.
Man, this is what you play for. This is why you're
exciting.
a fan. This is good stuff. All right, like I said, I tried to wrap it up earlier. Scottie and I just love talking so much that we just can't stop. But if you like the podcast, subscribe. If you want more Razorback content, go to wholehogsports.com. You can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts. So just check us out. And then you can also check us out on the video. Like I said, it's working. We'll see what happens. But podcast, the old reliable, is always there. Well, for Scottie Bordelon, I am Seth Campbell saying thank you for joining us. We will see you back here next week on the Basketball Podcast of Mid-America.